Return to Castle Wolfenstein is a first-person shooter video game published by Activision and originally released on November 19, 2001 for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 2, Xbox, Linux, MorphOS, AROS and Macintosh. The single-player game was developed by Grey Matter Interactive and Nerve Software developed its multiplayer modded software. The creators of Wolfenstein 3D oversaw the development and were credited as executive producers. The multiplayer side eventually became the most popular part of the game, and was influential in the genre. Splash Damage, an independently owned game developer in London, created some of the maps for the Game of the Year edition. Splash Damage also developed a downloadable multiplayer-only sequel called Wolfenstein: Enemy Territory, which is one of the most popular free downloadable games on the Internet. A further sequel, titled Wolfenstein, was released on August 18, 2009. Synopsis: Return to Castle Wolfenstein is a reboot of the early first-person shooter Wolfenstein 3D. It includes a story-based single-player campaign, as well as a team-based networked multiplayer mode. In the campaign, Allied agents from the fictional Office of Secret Actions are sent to investigate rumors surrounding one of Heinrich Himmler's personal projects, the SS Paranormal Division. The agents are, however, captured before completing their mission and are imprisoned in Castle Wolfenstein. Taking the role of Blazkowicz, the player must escape the castle and continue investigating the activities of the SS Paranormal Division, which include research on resurrecting corpses, biotechnology, and secret weapons. During the game the player battles Waffen-SS soldiers, elite Fallschirmjäger known as Blackguards, undead creatures, and Antisoldaten formed from a blend of surgery and chemical engineering conducted by Wilhelm Deathshead Strauss. The end boss is an undead Saxon warrior prince named Heinrich I. The cable car in the castle is based on the 1968 movie Where Eagles Dare, where a U.S. Army brigadier general is captured and taken prisoner to the Schloerli Adler, a fortress high in the Alps above the town of Werfen, only reachable by cable car, and the headquarters of the German Secret Service in southern Bavaria. The supernatural element is based on the story of Castle Welsberg, a 17th-century castle occupied by the Germans under Heinrich Himmler's control, and used for occult rituals and practices. In the German version of the game, it avoids making direct reference to Nazi Party and the Third Reich, in order to comply with strict laws in Germany. The player is not battling Nazis but a secret sect called the Wolves led by Heinrich H. Lehr, whose name is a pun of the original character Himmler. The Nazi swastika is also not present. The German forces use a Wolfenstein logo which is a combination of a stylized double-headed eagle prominent in most Nazi symbolism, a W, and the Quake 3, Team Arena QII logo. The W-Eagle logo is prominently seen on the cover art for the American version. Music pieces such as Moonlight Sonata and Far One Quarter are used in the single-player campaign. The team-based networked multiplayer features different character classes that must work together in order to win. There are 4 classes: a Lieutenant, Medic, Engineer, and Soldier. The soldier can be one of several subclasses depending upon the special heavy weapon that he selects. The multiplayer demo includes a beachhead assault map similar to Omaha Beach. Story: while investigating the activities of the SS Paranormal Division in Germany, B.J. Blazkowicz and Agent 1 are captured by the Nazis. Agent 1 dies during interrogation, but B.J. manages to escape Castle Wolfenstein's dungeon. He then fights his way out of the castle, using a tramcar to leave the area and meet up with a member of the German resistance in a nearby village. The SS Paranormal Division, under Oberfar One Quarter Rear Helge von Below, has been excavating the catacombs and crypts of an ancient church within the village. The division's sloppy precautions have led to the awakening of hordes of undead creatures, including Saxon knights, and the entrance must be sealed off, leaving many soldiers trapped inside the catacombs. B.J. descends regardless and fights both Nazis and undead until he arrives at the ancient house of worship, the defiled church, where Nazi scientist Professor Zempf is conducting a life essence extraction on the corpse of a Dark Knight. Shortly before B.J.'s arrival, Senf tries to talk the impatient Helga von Bülow out of retrieving an ancient Thulian artifact, the Dagger of Warding, but she shoots him and proceeds. This awakens a monster, Alaric, which kills her as well. Blattskowicz defeats Alaric, then is airlifted out with Senf's notes and the dagger. One of Germany's leading scientific researchers and head of the SS Special Projects Division, Wilhelm Deathshead Strauss, is preparing to launch an attack on London. He intends to use a V-2 rocket fitted with an experimental germ warhead, launching it from his base near Catamaran in the Baltics. Blattskowicz is parachuted some distance from the missile base and smuggles himself in on a supply truck. Once inside, Blattskowicz destroys the V-2 on its launchpad and fights his way out of the facility towards an airbase filled with experimental jet aircraft. There, he commandeers a Cobra rocket plane and flies to safety in Malta. Eager to know more about Deathshead and his secret projects, the OSA sends Blattskowicz to the bombed city of Kugelstadt, where he is assisted by members of the German Creosaur Circle resistance group in breaking into a ruined factory and exfiltrating a defecting scientist. There he discovers the blueprints for the Reich's latest weapon, the Venom gun, an electrically operated handheld minigun. He also procures the weapon itself. Blattskowicz eventually breaks into Deathshead's underground research complex, the secret weapons facility. There he encounters horrific creatures, malformed and twisted through surgery and mechanical implants. The creatures escape and go on a rampage. Blattskowicz sees Deathshead escape the SWF by U-boat, and learns of his destination by interrogating a captured German officer. Blattskowicz is then parachuted into Norway, close to Deathshead's mysterious X-Labs. After breaking into the facility, which has been overrun by the twisted creatures he encountered in Kugelstadt, Blattskowicz retrieves Deathshead's journal. He then confronts several prototype Arborsoldaten, towering monstrosities coated in armor, powered by hydraulic legs and carrying powerful fixed weapons. Finally, he destroys one of Deathshead's completed Arborsoldaten and kills the researchers who have developed it. Deathshead himself escapes in a Cobra rocket plane and does not appear in the game again. After studying the documents captured by Blattskowicz, the OSA has become aware of a scheme codenamed Operation Resurrection, a plan to resurrect Heinrich I, a legendary and powerful Saxon warlock king. Despite the skepticism of senior Allied commanders, the OSA parachutes Blattskowicz close to Castle Wolfenstein itself. He arrives at the town of Paderborn and, after assassinating all the senior officers of the SS Paranormal Division present there for the resurrection, fights his way through Chateau Schaffstaffel and into the grounds beyond. After fighting two more Arborsoldaten, Blattskowicz enters an excavation site near Castle Wolfenstein. Inside the excavation site, Blattskowicz fights Nazi guards and prototype Arborsoldaten, and makes his way to a boarded-up entrance to Castle Wolfenstein's crypts. There, he finds that the ruined part of the castle has become infested with undead creatures, which are attacking the castle's desperate garrison. After fighting his way through the castle, Blattskowicz arrives too late at the site of a dark ceremony to resurrect Heinrich I. At the ceremony, SS psychic Mariana Blavatsky conjures up dark spirits, which transform three Arborsoldaten into Dark Knights, Heinrich's lieutenants. She ultimately raises Heinrich I, who thanks her by turning her into his undead slave. In a climactic battle, Blattskowicz destroys the three Dark Knights and Heinrich I, as SS Chief Heinrich Himmler watches in horror, remarking afterwards, "This American. He has ruined everything." Characters: Oberfahr 1/4 Rare Wilhelm Strauss or Deathshead is a gifted researcher who heads the SS Special Projects Division. He is the man behind both the Lopers, and the Super Soldiers, towering cyborg soldiers that were heavily armed and armored. He was also attempting to launch a V-2 rocket on London with a chemical warhead. Unlike the other SS antagonists, Deathshead does not believe in the occult and would prefer to arm the Nazi war machine using advanced technology, but has been ordered to provide his creations to Operation Resurrection by Himmler himself. Himmler has also asked him to join the resurrection ceremony, but Strauss declines due to his disbelief in the occult. Strauss continuously taunts Blattskowicz during his duel in the lab with an Arborsoldat, Commenting thus, we will see the superiority of the machine over flesh and blood. After the protagonist wins the fight, Death's Head narrowly escapes in a rocket plane and goes into hiding, not to be seen again for the rest of the story. Death's Head returns as one of the main antagonists in the 2009 sequel Wolfenstein, where he has been promoted to Obergruppen Far 1/4, Abgesoldat is Wilhelm Death's Head Strauss's creation. It is a brutish cyborg with technological and cybernetic enhancements, armed with experimental weapons such as Tesla guns, Venom guns, and also Panzerfausts. The Abgesoldat are heavily armored and can take a massive amount of damage, functioning as game bosses. Standart in Far 1/4 Helge von Below is a high-ranking officer within the SS Paranormal Division and also founder of the Order of the Elite Guards, the SS Paranormal Division's all-female security force. She is Mariana Blavatsky's pupil and a firm believer in the occult. Although a capable leader, Helga tries too hard and makes rash decisions that jeopardize the safety of her troops. While the elite guards are loyal to her, the male soldiers under her command are skeptical of her choices. At Alaric's tomb she kills Professor Zemp after he tries to stop her from taking the dagger. While doing this she accidentally awakens Alaric, who brutally kills her too. SS High Priestess Oberfar 1/4 Mariana Blavatsky is in charge of Operation Resurrection. She tutored Standart in Far 1/4 von Below in the ways of the occult. Little is mentioned of her until the OSA learns of the ceremony. She is first seen in the game conducting a ceremony near a chateau involving 2 super soldiers. At the finale, she transforms 3 super soldiers into zombie knights and uses them to revive Heinrich I. Blavatsky pledges her loyalty and servitude to Heinrich only for him to reward her by transforming her into a zombie slave. Blavatsky and the Death Knights end up being destroyed by Blatzkowicz as he arrives to face Heinrich. Alaric, the boss for the first set of missions, is the founder of the Dark Forge and involved in Thulian law. Standart in Far 1/4 von Below finds Alaric's tomb and, despite Professor Zempf's warnings about breaking the inner seal, she accidentally brings him back to life by taking his dagger. Alaric kills her shortly before Blatzkowicz arrives on this scene. Heinrich I was an evil warlord, allegedly Heinrich I of Germany, who launched a campaign of conquest in medieval Europe. He had studied the black arts and used them to his advantage by raising the dead. In the intro-movie, a wizard confronts Heinrich and magically seals the tyrant in limbo. 1,000 years later the SS Paranormal Division discovers his tomb. The player's final task in the game is to stop the sorceress Blavatsky from reviving him, but this cannot be achieved. Instead, Heinrich must be defeated in the final boss battle. Heinrich Himmler is one of the only non-fictional characters of this game and the main person behind Operation Resurrection. He appears in a short cameo in the last Q-scene, watching BJ defeat and kill Heinrich I from a good distance. He expresses surprise at the agent's victory, saying, "This American. He has ruined everything." An aide-de-camp then informs him he must return to Berlin. Multiplayer. Wolfenstein Multiplayer is an objective game mode, in which players are split into 2 teams, Axis and Allies. Each team has a set of objectives to complete, the Allies usually being to destroy some sort of Axis advantage, and the Axis objectives being to defend their object, S. These objectives are split into 2 categories, primary and secondary. Primary objectives are ones which must be completed for victory, generally stealing secret documents or destroying a radar array. However, secondary objectives are ones which are optional, they do not have to be completed, but if they are, they may aid the appropriate team, such as blowing out a door to allow access into a tunnel which shortens travel time or allows less noticeable infiltration of the enemy base. Each team has access to a slightly different set of weapons, matching those used by each side in World War II. Players can choose from 4 different classes: soldier, medic, lieutenant and engineer. Each class specializes in a certain aspect of the game, and an effective team will balance players out using all 4 classes, such as a soldier for blasting through enemy defenses, a medic for supporting the team and keeping them alive, a lieutenant to resupply teammates with ammo and engineers to complete the objective, having their way cleared by the soldier which is then supported by the lieutenant. Gameplay modes. There are 3 different modes of play in WolfMP, each allowing for a different experience: General Multiplayer Deathmatch, Stopwatch, and Checkpoint. Stopwatch calls for the Allied side to complete a set of objectives within a predefined time limit. The opposing team then become the Allies and have to complete the objectives in a shorter time than the now Axis. Checkpoint game mode is a mode in which teams capture flags. It may be more commonly known as capture the flag. Whichever team is first to control all the flags at once, wins. Development. The game is powered by a heavily modified version of the Quake 3 Team Arena engine. The Return to Castle Wolfenstein engine was subsequently used as the foundation for Wolfenstein, Enemy Territory, Trinity, and Call of Duty. There are many different releases of Return to Castle Wolfenstein. The original release, version 1.0, came in a game box featuring a book-like flap. A collector's edition, packaged in a metal case, was released at the same time. The contents of the collector's edition changed depending on when it was purchased and could include a poster and fabric patch, a poster and a bonus CD, or just the bonus CD. The Game of the Year edition came with the original Wolfenstein 3D, game demos, and 7 new multiplayer maps. The Platinum edition included Wolfenstein, Enemy Territory, a standalone multiplayer expansion, and Wolfenstein 3D Return to Castle Wolfenstein. Tides of War also came with the original Wolfenstein 3D as an unlockable after beating the campaign, and included some enhancements like surround sound. Ports. The game was released for the Linux and Macintosh platforms in 2002, with the Linux port done internally by Timothy Bessett and the Mac port done by Asper Media. In 2003, the game was ported to the PlayStation 2 and Xbox video game consoles and subtitled as Operation Resurrection and Tides of War, respectively. Since the official source code release, the game has also been ported to Android under the name RTCW4A. Console version differences. Both console versions include an additional single-player prequel mission, set in the fictional town of Ras El Hadid in Egypt. The latter half of the level features an extensive underground burial site with many undead enemies, as does the original first mission. This prequel level is likely closer to the developer's true intentions for the story, as indicated by the distinctly Egyptian design of the burial site, including the presence of sand, traps, mummies and hieroglyphs on the walls in some areas. The PS2 version has a bonus feature which allows you to purchase items at the end of each level by finding secrets. In the Xbox version, a secret bonus is awarded after every level when all the secret areas for that level have been found. It also has several new equipable items and weapons as well as new enemies. The 2-player co-op mode is exclusive to Xbox and allows the second player to play as Agent 1. The Xbox version has downloadable content, system link play and had online multiplayer via Xbox Live before Live Play was disabled for original Xbox games. A Platinum Hits edition of the game was also released for the Xbox. The PlayStation 2 version does not support online multiplayer. Sequels. A multiplayer-only spin-off of the series, Wolfenstein, Enemy Territory, was originally planned as a full-fledged expansion pack for Return to Castle Wolfenstein developed by Splash Damage. The single-player component of the game was never completed and thus was removed entirely. The developers at that point decided the multiplayer part would be released as a free, downloadable standalone game. Enemy Territory is a team-based networked multiplayer game which involves completing objectives through teamwork using various character classes. As of late 2011, Enemy Territory remains a popular game. This gameplay was also later retooled in a full-fledged commercial game, Enemy Territory, Quake Wars, set in id Software's Quake universe. A sequel called Wolfenstein was developed by Raven Software and id Software and published by Activision, and released on August 18, 2009. Source code release. The source code for Return to Castle Wolfenstein and Enemy Territory was released under the GNU General Public License on August 12, 2010. The Quake 3 developers at Iculus.org announced the start of respective engine projects soon after. Film. A Return to Castle Wolfenstein film was announced in 2002 with Rob Cohen of XXX attached to direct. Little information has been available since, however, with the exception of a July 20, 2005 IGN interview. The interview discussed the Return to Castle Wolfenstein film with id employees. In the interview, Todd Hollins had indicated that the movie was in the works, though still in the early stages. On August 3, 2007, Variety confirmed Return to Castle Wolfenstein to be written and directed by Roger Avary and produced by Samuel Haydider. On November 2, 2012, Roger Avary has signed on to write and direct the film. The film is being described as a mix of Inglourious-based ads and Captain America. Reception: Return to Castle Wolfenstein received favorable reviews from critics. At Metacritic, it scores 88/100, and on Game Rankings it scores 86.75%. Eurogamer's Tom Bramwell called Return to Castle Wolfenstein a worthy addition to the stable of its software-affiliated shoot-'em-ups. The single-player game is average to good and takes quite a while to finish, but the game really earns its salt by shipping with a first-class multiplayer element. Controversy: In March 2008, the United States Department of State published a report to Congress, Contemporary Global Anti-Semitism, that described Return to Castle Wolfenstein as an anti-Semitic video game with no qualifications. The report picked up on an article originally written in 2002 by Jonathan Kay of The New York Times regarding the recent introduction of Nazi protagonists in the online gaming market. The article was published just 19 days before Medal of Honor: Allied Assault was released, which shares many similar features, and the Nazi protagonists in multiplayer. Todd Hollinshead, chief executive of id Software at the time of the original article, stated, "The trend you're seeing with new games is, to some extent, a reflection of what's going in the kite area. For instance, you've now got games with terrorists and counter-terrorists. And World War II games such as Return to Castle Wolfenstein and Day of Defeat reflect what you see in popular movies. I don't doubt there are going to be people that go out and distort what the multiplayer gaming experience is and say, 'Oh, I can't believe you guys did this.' There are a lot of critics of the game industry, and they look for things to criticize." Awards: The game was nominated at 2002 Game Developers' Choice Awards in the Excellence in Programming category. See also: Nazi mysticism, Wolfenstein 3D, references. External links: Official id Software website, RTCW at the Internet Movie Database, Return to Castle Wolfenstein at Moby Games, interview with Todd Hollinshead from GameSpy, It's Next, on RTCW2 from Shack News, source code is hosted on GitHub.